What's going on, Neon Nation? Welcome back to the arcade for yet another Cyberpunk news video, diving into the latest developments. Today we're taking a look at some glorious images of the game in disc format, some amazing new screenshots, details on just how much content is in the game and how much difficulty settings and playstyles will affect your playtime, a brand new RTX trailer released with a full lineup of specs from 1080p to 4K, with and without ray tracing, and some updates to photo mode. First up, yes indeed, we finally have some evidence that physical copies are out there in the wild, and man, they are glorious. This is a warning call to some that the likelihood of leaks and spoilers are quite a bit higher now. So if you are perusing the internet in the next couple weeks before launch, be careful of what you might stumble upon. Looking at the case a bit closer up, for of course the PS4 version, we have the beautiful yellow key art featuring male V, which is actually reversible for those who prefer female V. We also have a logo for all their pre-launch awards and the contents of the box. In the box we have the World Compendium, stickers, postcards, the game map, and all the digital goodies associated with the base version of the game, as well as 2 Blu-ray discs. We reported on the fact that on the PlayStation Store way back in 2019, it also did mention 2 discs. So now we know for sure, and I think people were mentioning that one could be the OST, but at this point we don't really know. At the bottom we have that CDPR love coming through with the sticker for the free upgrade to the PS5 version of the game. Hopefully that raised your guys' hype levels, and with 18 or so days until launch, December 10th is looking more and more solid. Moving on, we have a ton of gorgeous new screenshots from the previews that went live after the 5th and final Night City WOUR episode, and I have to say that the game is really looking in its best and final form. There are a couple of new ones that don't seem to correlate to scenes in recent trailers, so take a look on screen for some new eye candy. Moving on, we have some more news for those itching to know more about Cyberpunk from QA lead at CD Projekt Red, Lucas Babio, who shared an image of one of his playthroughs on the Nomad life path, about where it started and how it's going. For reference, Lucas was the first one to share the image of him completing all the trophies in Cyberpunk 2077 a month or so back, and the QA department are tasked with playing the game as much as humanly possible. With that being said, he did share a picture of his total playtime so far on one of his saves, clocking in 175 hours as a Nomad, and responding to a comment mentioning that no, he has still not completed the game in his playthrough. When asked if this was a completionist time, he mentions, quote, "Not really, that's just one of my ongoing slow playthroughs on the hardest difficulty where I play more stealthy than usual, loot everything, and use every feature the game has to offer. I take my time." Another user asks, "Are you still not done with everything?" To which Lucas mentions that he has not. When asked if he recommends the hardest difficulty for a first playthrough, he mentions, quote, "Well, it depends on your preferences and skill. I definitely recommend normal or hard for the first playthrough if you like a challenge. Don't know about very hard though, but you can change the difficulty setting at any time, so I'm sure you'll find the most fitting one." Each save file is also marked with your life path. Moving on, we have some more PC specs released by CDPR, but this time including the higher end PCs with the recommendations and required specs for ray tracing and higher resolutions. Let's go through them to get you acquainted with what you really need to push those high frame rates. For 1440p Ultra without ray tracing, we have the Intel Core i7-4790 or AMD Ryzen 3 3200G with 12GB of memory, and an RTX 2060 or Radeon RX 5700 XT with 6GB of VRAM. At 4K without ray tracing, we're taking a step up on the AMD side, with the Ryzen 5 3600 being recommended, and the system RAM being now 16GB. We have the 2080 Super or the 3070 as being the recommended cards for Team Green, and the 6800 XT being recommended from Team Red. We also have 8GB of VRAM. Moving into the behemoth that is ray tracing, we have 1080p with RT medium settings. You will need the same CPU as for 1440p no ray tracing, 16GB of RAM, and a 2060 or something equivalent with 6GB of VRAM. For 1440p RT Ultra, you'll need an i7-6700 or Ryzen 3600 with 16GB of RAM, and an RTX 3070 with 8GB of VRAM. At 4K ray tracing at Ultra, the granddaddy of this list, you'll need the same specs as 1440p RT Ultra, with the exception of the bump up to the RTX 3080 with 10GB of VRAM. I do want to mention that I looked all over in the support center, through Twitter threads, via various other resources, and there's nothing on the targeted frame rates here, although this is all utilizing DLSS according to an Nvidia article. As one of the 8 people in Canada with an RTX 3080, I gotta tell you life is quite sweet right about now. Along with these specs, we do have a behind the scenes trailer from Nvidia showing off some of these RTX settings, and I'm sure we're all aware at this point that this game looks incredible. In this trailer, the devs mentioned that Night City is filled with diverse buildings and pieces of architecture, and that they wanted it to look good in all times of day, under all the conditions of the flashing LEDs and neons, which posed a great challenge. A believable day and night cycle was also a big point of interest for CDPR, blending sunburnt grayed out city streets with super vivid lighting at night. The challenge here seems to be those transitionary hours between day and night and how Night City will react. The trailer goes on to showcase ray trace shadows and my personal favorite, ray trace reflections. It ends with some of my favorite shots bursting with color and some new gameplay tidbits as well. Moving on, when it comes to photo mode, the global community lead at CDPR has confirmed it will be coming day 1 for Cyberpunk 2077. You will be able to see your character in it with the ability to change poses. More details will come soon, but combine this with ray tracing, and I think we're going to be seeing some amazing community content in the future, and I cannot wait to see it. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more Cyberpunk content, join Neon Nation by subscribing to the Neon Arcade.